Inspired by my fur baby Tilly. When she's happy, her tail is wagging. When she's not, her tail is sagged under. So this practice on our mat is an exploration of how to have happy hips in our body and happy tails in our body as well. But first, I want to recite a poem from the dongingtonpost.com. It begins, I don't judge others. I don't hate. I don't discriminate. I don't care about money. I don't hold grudges. I do know how to love unconditionally, and that's all I want in return. I wait for you every day. I am your forever friend. Right, Till? So put that food for thought in your heart as we practice, because all we can do is continually to learn and grow from all beings in our life. Let's come on to quadruped. Let's come into this four-legged position, and let's explore how we feel on all fours. Now, normally, of course, we're bipedal, meaning that we're usually on 2 feet, two of our feet, but today we're on all fours. So if we were to kind of explore if we're maybe flat in spine, where the tail is a little hugged on down, or maybe we can feel this brilliancy around the ring of our belly, maybe even creating that that sound of breath, where you can sense where your engagement of those lower belly muscles are. And if you were to kind of envision how you would wag your tail, it should feel like you have a good old wag happening to the right, to the left. But if you were flat back and not using that lumbar back space curve, it's a little harder to wag. And even the wag comes from a different spot. I feel more of my shoulders in motion versus my hips in motion. And we want our hips in motion today. Let's continue to hold into quadruped and take a bird's eye view look at your fingers, including your thumbs. Grip all 10 fingers, and as you grip all 10 fingers, can you find the shoulder blades down the back of your body? Can you feel the connection of the muscles creating this firmness of support to the back? So again, you have more wag in the hips. And better yet, let's press into our hands, kind of feel what it would feel like being a quadruped, and weight bear into the front of our hands. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, anyhow, no SOS required other than the SOS of getting some happy hips. We're leaning on in. Just be curious as to how those wrists feel, maybe the elbows feel, bending at your elbows themselves, and see if you're able to create that motion. Maybe even 6 o'clock, bending at those elbows and gently peeling up and off thumbs, and then each of those fingers, maybe even separating those fingers. Let's create some yumminess of touch to the eye of the hand, maybe even creating some position point pressing into the thumb pad, into the pinky pad. Kind of touch into the soft tissue of your hand, maybe even to the knuckle bone, top of the hand, and then generate some fluid exchange into the lower portion of your arm bone, maybe even into where these two bones meet. There might be some tight tissue in there, and create compression with your hand, and maybe motion, maybe even into your neck, maybe into the wrist, and feel how it's connected when you move even indirectly into one body part, that you can feel a little tension or pull, and then stimulate the tissue. And then coming into that quadruped position again. Hopefully you feel maybe even different with the gift of touch that you created into that hand. Just like our fur babies love to be touched, love their bellies rubbed. There's a reason for that. Touch is an amazing gift. So let's give that sense of touch, starting at the eye of the hand, even into the thumb pad, pinky pad, the knuckles, maybe even gently pulling back those fingers. Every day we need to touch our hands, especially with the precarious positions that we are in on our hand devices and laptops. And we wonder why these tissues get inflamed and cranky. So the gift of touch. Sense how you can even use the whole bone of the arm to really get deep into that rotator cuff. We should isolate or be able to isolate different parts of our bodies, including our arms. We'll be doing some practice of wrapping those triceps around and feel the synergy of connection of how the arms connect to the trunk of our torso. See if you can bring those elbows in, maybe even a little bit more forward than the hips themselves, and feel that engagement on the underside of the armpits. Roll those shoulders back and lean on it into quadruped. I'm going to turn to my side. Hopefully it's a lot easier of a situation to weight bear. So we're already a little bit more ahead of the game and coming to our quadruped position. But what about our tail? Notice if you could isolate the movement of your tail, coming under into like a sad dog tail. But we want happy. I want you to notice as you create this opening of your hips, the tail to draw itself up to the ceiling. If you can put more desire into the big toe mound of the foot, and as you press, maybe spin those heels out and really get more action into those hips by pressing into the foot and feeling that connection all the way up into the seat, into the tail. And hold that happy wag and take some focused breaths, maybe motioning into the ribs. Sometimes our fur babies are full body waggers. But if we're sad dog with the tail under, it's hard to be a full body wagger. We get that emotion on the weight of our shoulders, and that's not what we want today. If you have a yoga block, I want to explore, or maybe even, this is a performance roller by Melt. It's one of my favorites. Let's sense how we're breathing into our full body wag today. Hands position themselves to the back of the skull, and I want that wag to be down. I want your hips to feel that connection, pressing into both of those footprints. Energetically push away, but keep the happy wag. So the wag is generating that energy into your mat. And reach overhead, give it a Good, happy stretch. What we can learn from our fur babies when they wake up in the mornings or even waking up from their nap, they are truly connected with their bodies by finding that length, opening up where it was dormant when they were sleeping. You can also do this with a block. Feel free to use that gift of touch. And whatever you do, whether it's your hands, whether it's soft pieces of equipment around your home, or maybe even a blanket, push those feet away in one direction, create that reach in the opposite. And if you were to lift up your right heel, bend at the elbows, bring those elbows higher than the hips, and then unload the footprint, load that paw print. Do you feel the connection into your core? And reconnect. Press those feet energetically away. Press those paws in one direction, paws in the opposite direction. Happy wag down into your mat. Opposite foot, press it, lifts up. The heel lifts up, ball mound presses down. And gently bend at the elbows, elbows higher than the hips. Heart leads the way, collarbones stay open. See if you can pick up that opposite foot and feel that grabbing onto your center. And then gently, maybe lifting up both those heels. Dorothy, click those heels. See if you can come into a quadruped. And then Dorothy, click those heels as those elbows come higher than the hips. Maybe supporting the skull. And then lifting on up into like an upside down quadruped. Do you feel the connection to the core? Last time, using that synergy of opening up the chest up towards the ceiling as the wag is coming down towards the mat. Feel that connect. Feel the core working together as one. Adding that reach, pointing the toes. Taking that breath in. And bring it to where we're rolling onto our bellies. Do what feels good in your body at all times. Let's use some of these concepts into this magnificent practice today. Gripping all 10 fingers back, pull the chest through. Feel the invitation of the shoulder blades come down, bending at the knees, maybe windshield wipering the knees from one side to the other, and stick out your wag, stick out your tail as you move from one side to the other, flexion at the ankles, continuous energy of all 10 fingers pulling back. And gently lifting up the hips, maybe backing up those elbows. Child's pose, big toes together, arms reach overhead, gripping all 10 fingers so those shoulders can roll back and down. Forearms come down, tipping forward, heart space stays open, puppy pose, flexing at the ankles and back into child's pose. See how you can work and feel that amazingness in the trunk and torso of your body without your limbs having to do too much. One more time, lean on in, heart space stays open. Even the elbows might be more narrower than the wrists, making a little V. So I'm using my armpit strength instead of my neck strength, which we don't want to use today. And just wander, happy wag, full body wag, to the one side, to the other. As we come into a quadruped position, feel free to use blocks. Wrists are directly underneath the shoulders. Full body wag to the one side and then to the other. Toes tuck under, hovering the knees. Do you feel the core here? And then gently drop the knees, pull all 10 fingertips, collarbones widen, wrap those triceps. Try that again. Keep the triceps wrapping as the knees hover, and then drop. How'd you do? This time we're moving into down dog, pressing action into all those paw prints, ball mounds of the feet, knees lift, down dog. Pedal out the feet and do what feels right for you as we alternate, as we pedal out those feet. Left foot lifts, bend the knee, open up the hip, three-legged downward dog, and see if you can maybe bend both knees and stick out your happy wag tail and feel action into the hip. Give it a little love tap, flexing at the ankle, and maybe maintaining both those paw prints in the front to be active, even though we're unloading a little bit more to the right, drawing circles, first to one direction, then to the other. Rebalance that left hip. Left paw comes to the front of your mat, dropping the back knee and the toe. Interlace the fingers. Give it a little happy wag here from side to side. Feel free to use the block underneath the knee if that feels better for your body. Coming on down, just exploring how we can feel that breath connect into our core bodies. Both hands plant. Step that left foot back. Drop the back knees. Wrap those triceps. Collarbones stay open. Heart leads the way. Find baby dog as we pull all 10 fingertips back. Forearms down. Keep that connection, bending at the knees, and then stick out the butt. Wag that tail from side to side. Sense your connection to your core. I'm going to back up those elbows. Forearms are connected. 10 fingers pull back. Child's pose. Puppy pose. Heart leads on in. That happy wag lifts up. Moving into quadruped. Wag on in. Keep active in those paw prints, hovering up the knees. Feel that core action, dropping the knees, opening up in traditional, maybe cow, hovering up the knees, moving into three-legged dog, lifting up the right paw, bending at the knees, maybe bending both those knees to feel a little love into this hip. Keep that wag happy. Rebalance that hip, open it up, drawing circles with the knee, isolating core action, first to one direction, then into the other. Now rebalance that hip, bring that back foot to step forward, dropping that back knee, left knee drops, happy wag, lifting on up, lifting on back. Sense that timing as we're coming up. That wag gets a little more neutral. Both hands plant. This time we're dragging that back foot in. Hands plant on top of the thighs. Maybe a little happy lift. Happy lower. Both hands plant on top of the thighs. Do you feel the core in Utkatasana? Maybe lifting and lowering. Hook those thumbs. Big reach. Arms lift. Notice your bipedal position. Do your paw prints feel active and loaded and equal from side to side? Let's reach over to our right. Active, even though we're moving away, we're integrating that paw on the opposite. Switching sides, switching directions, adding that reach, but keep connection. Back to center. Both hands plant. Wag that wag. Hands plant. We're going to step that left foot back. Drop the knee, but not the toe. Add that reach of the right arm active into that paw on the bottom. Reach it back. Maybe threading underneath. And see if you can keep connection into that right heel pushing forward as that ball mound presses down and into your mat. One more. And sweeping it under. Let's pick up that back knee and see if we can bring that left ball mound of the foot to press into the top of your mat and step it on back. Maybe add a little crescent, twisted crescent, and coming on back to the top of your mat. Push into the ball of the foot. One more time. See if you can keep those hips nice and parallel to the ceiling. Maybe putting more demand of the ball mound into the floor. Maybe positioning the block a little bit more to where you are stable in your wag and stable in those hips, but movement in the upper portion of your body. Hands plant onto the thighs, keeping that lower and lift of that back heel. Maybe a little neuro quiver, but we're using the arches of that foot. And shake out that wag. Bring it on up. Bring it on down. It's a gorgeous day out. Spring is in the air. Reach it on up. Both feet are actively imprinted into the floor. Reach it on up. Even though we're moving away from that side, we're more secure into that paw print. Hook those thumbs. Good evening, good morning, whatever time of the day it is. Make it feel good. Hands plant. Long length of your spine. Pick up that right heel. Feel how the arches work as we lift and lower. Now let's lift. Core is active. Right foot plants back. Coming into low lunge, dropping the knee, but not the toe. Add that reach. And thread it underneath. Add that reach. See if we can put more demand of the ball mound of that right foot. So the only thing in action, in motion, are those ribs. This time, let's pick up that right knee into a twisted crescent and play with how we can ground into those reflexes of our feet and maybe drag that foot in, keep the heel lifted and drag it on back, twisted crescent, maybe thread it and reach it, drag it on in, press into the ball mound of that top of the foot. One more time, add that reach. Be calm. Thread it underneath. Ribs are the only thing in action. Press it on through. Wag it on up. Wag it down. One more. Add that reach. Wag it down. Both hands plant. We're going to walk those feet back, sturdy in your plank. Feel, grip it, shutting out all 10 fingers, all 10 toes. Dropping on down. Find child's pose. Lengthen the spine. Forearms come down. Puppy pose. Heart leads the way. Coming into child's pose. And this time, as we lean on into that puppy pose, we're going to bring both those hands underneath the shoulders into quadraped and roll those shoulders back. Hover the knees and just allow the knees to bend and extend. See if you can feel the ball mounds pushing down and spin out those heels into down dog. Feel that wag, feel those lateral hips open. Left foot lifts, bend the knee, open up the hip, and rebalance that hip. Pull that knee into the chest, core action happening. Bending at the knee, open up the hip. Keep active in both those front paws. And this time we're threading. Squeeze those inner thighs, maybe planting your hands or your paws on the top of the blocks. Wag it on out. Wag it on out. Wag it on in. And then maybe make a dancer's table. Your butt is open and we're lifting, maybe extending those limbs. Pull it on in, pull it on out. Feel that work underneath the armpit. And maybe lift and lower for 4. Go 3. Strength and happy all at the same time. And 1. Right hand comes down, spinning on back. And let's kick it on out, flexing at the ankle. And see if you can pull it on in, kick it on out, lean onto that heart space, pull it on in. Maybe this time as you kick it on out, we're gonna wag it on in, crossing the left leg over. Get that wag happening in those hips as we take it on up. Hooking those thumbs, reaching arms overhead, bending at the elbows, wag it on down. And maybe using the ball mounds of the footprints and interlace the fingers behind our body. Finding that breath. Really adding some space into those hips will keep us moving for a lifetime. So that's really what you want, is space in those hips. Do you feel how that underside leg is getting a little bit more excited to come alive? We're moving into half moon. That right foot is going to step, maybe grabbing a block, and we're reaching with our right arm out. Flexing at the ankle, invite the shoulder on the right down, flexing at the ankle, maybe bending both knees and pressing out. See if you can feel that communication from paw print to hip print. One more time, bending at the knee. And as we open it and become longer in our length, that we feel that working together as one. Twisted warrior. Kind of rebalance my hips, opening up the heart, maybe picking up the front of the arm bones before I extend those limbs. Fire that glute, bending at the knee, pressing that heel to the ceiling. And then when you're ready, find yourself a seat. I'm going to use a block to sit on. A lot of times throughout our day, we are never thinking about the hips staying open. They are sagging under into those sad dog pose tails, but not today. Kind of wander from one side to the other. Maybe use those paws to touch the floor. Follow the eye gaze up. Follow the eye gaze down. Switching sides, lifting and lowering. Really good deliciousness to work both hemispheres of those brains. Lifting and lowering. 2 more. Add that reach. And as we're lifting that sitting bone, the tail becomes even more pronounced into your mat. And take a pause. How are we wagging in those ribs while those hips are actively stabilizing. Slither on to your belly. Gripping all 10. Pause to pull the chest forward. Maybe coming into locust, rounding the wrists, rounding the elbows. Practice moving and orchestrating the arm bones to move and the leg bones to move all together as one. Making your sound, both hands underneath and lifting up those hips first. Get the hips to be felt. Use that wag, happy wag to lift you up into child's pose. And then bring you into leaning on in, elbows more narrower than the wrists. And leaning on back. Toes tuck under. Find strength in your plank. Pressing into the paws. Seeing where you're at. Picking up the right. Bend the knee, open up the hip, maybe backing up your paws, maybe planting them on blocks if they feel more connected and controlled. Bending at the knees. See what that feels like. But keep that grounding action into all 4 of your paws. Rebalance that hip, knee comes firm and strong into the core. Adding that reach, bending the knee, open up that hip. And we're threading. He thinks I'm calling for SOS. My dog is here. She'll help save the day. And just find your wag as you move and pivot on the ball mound of the foot. And then gently bending at your knees, dropping and lifting, maybe extending and rebending and extending. Make it feel delicious. Full happy wag. Give me 4 and 3. Go 2 and 1. Hips are on. Left hand plants. Spin that wag to the front. And maybe bring those hands to walk them to the back of your mat. Feel that wag. Arms reach. Heart leads the way. Lifting on up. Hooking those thumbs. Movement in the ribs. First to one direction, then to the other. Happy dog day. Rebend those knees. Hips are moving out and about. We're going to take the left foot half moon. Maybe with a block. Rebend both those knees. Make sure those hips are happy waggers. So as you add extension into the limbs, you're using lengthy strength. Dog days are over of doing things with sad dog tails. Add that reach. Firing, not just in that bottom hip, but at the top hip too. Collarbones stay open, twisted warrior, rebalancing that right hip point, right hand plants, lean into that heart, open it out. Don't forget to breathe. See if you can wag. See if you can add loose motion and groove with feeling stable all at the same time. We're going to find our seat. That back knee is going to come in. I love to bring the ground up to me so I can really commit to finding some happy in the way my hips feel, my ribs feel. I can even breathe better. Following the gaze from one side then to the other. Give me 2 more. Reaching and lowering. And give yourself a big hug. And let it go. Unconditional love for you and your body. Further onto your bellies. Use that breath. Picking up the front of the arm bones and that locust. Spinning the legs, the arms. So we can be better in quadruped. Everything is centrally located. Maybe bringing the bend of both those knees. And if always in your practice, feel the length of your spine here. Using that breath, inhale. Finding that exhale. Using that core to connect into those dormancy parts. One more time. Happy dog tail. And then see if you can use that happy, even an extension. And without slingshooting the arms, control the limbs, releasing. Find that core throughout. Hands plant. Lifting on up. Child's pose. Lengthening into the spine. Forearms down. Are we still wagging fully? From side to side. Puppy pose. Lean on in. Lean on out. Leaning on in. Happy dog. Happy wag for life. Coming into quadruped. Wrists are underneath the shoulders. Knees are underneath the hips. Wrapping those triceps, collarbones stay broad. And let's see if we can isolate. I'm just going to turn to my side. See if we can isolate the movement of the sad dog and the happy, putting more energy into the ball mounds of those paws to feel the stretch of those sexy hip rotators as you roll it in and roll it out. Good practice to isolate our body parts. It's like the key ingredient for movement for a lifetime is separating body parts Toes touch down, paws touch down, I should say, hovering up the knees. Do you feel the core? Left foot, bend, open up the hip. See if you can keep the happy. I'm going to lift and lower by bending and extending the bottom knee, that right knee, without changing or rounding into the back. Rebalance. Left foot steps forward. And let's just come into ostrich. Interlacing the fingers, heart leads in one direction, hips lead to the other, and we're happy. And see if we can wag ourselves into warrior two. Spin those arm bones, reversing. Keep the hips happy. Lumbar back curve is really necessary for us to have movements, variation. Maybe taking the bend out of the knee, picking up the toes. Little paw action by lifting and lowering. Reversing. So the ribs are only in action. Added synergy of those paw prints pushing away. Variation. Maybe taking the bend out of that knee. See what feels good for you. Using props keeps the hips happy for life, never overstraining, but using confidence in our ranges. Spinning on that back right ball mound of the foot, finding lizard, maybe a little gecko. Inside of the leg is connected to the tricep on the same side as we wag. Maybe wag. Maybe pick up the heel and wag. Wag. Maybe bring that right foot to drop back and come forward. And hold that through. We're moving into high crescent lunge. Happy wag in the back. Opening up the heart space. Maybe bending at the elbow. Getting a nice, yummy stretch. Some breath into the sides of those ribs. And maybe even reaching it to the opposite. Open it out. Roll the shoulders. Elbow points are creating really firmness. Hopefully no crunching or munching. Make it nice and smooth using that armpit strength. Take a bow. Warrior one. Take a bow. High crescent lunge. Add that reach. Bending at the elbows, circling, interlacing. Warrior one, devotional warrior. Take a bow. And this time the hands are going to plant. Step that left foot back. Feel firm, feel strong, feel invigorated. Bending at the knees, child's pose. Puppy pose. Quadruped. Rising up, toes tuck under. Down dog, lifting on up. Pedaling out the feet. Shake it on out, full body wag maybe. Right foot lifts. Make it feel good. Bringing that right foot to the top of your mat. Ostrich. As much as the booty is going back, shake and wag. Heart leads the way in the opposite direction. As we lift and graciously coming into warrior two. Variation. See if you can maybe adjust with a bend of your knee to make sure those hips are out and about. Variation, reach it. Sure those hips are in a happy wag position. Reverse it. You should feel a lot more freedom in your movement, in your wags, by keeping your hips out, using the lumbar back straight. Coming into that lizard. Yeah, the lizard works quickly on all fours. A lot of curve. Their tails are very long. It helps with balance. So if our tails, if you can imagine a lizard with a sucked under tail, that quickness of a lizard would not be happening. So very important to keep our tails wagging upward, opening it up into side angle, maybe a bend and extend, adding a variation. Opening it out, squeezing the shoulder blades, rebending, and maybe rebending the knee, coming into that lizard. Wag it. Being curious about your motion. Wagging. High crescent lunge. See if you can keep the tip going back. Hook those thumbs. Then give yourself a pat on the back. Bending at your knees. Sometimes you can adjust your hips to happier motion. Opening it out, interlace the fingers, devotional warrior. As the hip goes back, the heart leans front. Press it. Devotional warrior. Making arches with your paws. If you ever checked out a paw print, there's deep crevices in there, and we need to use the crevices of our own paws. So dome it, feel the lift off. Slither around, wagging the tail, come into a wide angle position. Exploring our hips, paralleling our feet, putting more synergy of the outside of the third of the heel and the big toe. And sense how we can, even taking out the bend of the knee, leading into the heart space, wrapping that tri, really get it nestled deep into that shoulder. And then switching sides. Keep the stability right in those paws. As we add that reach, move more desire into the outside of the heel. Try it again. Bending at the knees at any time. You feel like you need more connection, but don't lose that ground where you need it the most. Slither it around. Full body wag. From down to up. Come to the front of your mat. And feel how much stronger you feel in your feet, in your paws. Being bipedal, we need to be strong in quadraped first. Crawl before you walk, walk before you run, but above all, Do it with joy. Do it with unbridled enthusiasm and journey with your movements for a lifetime. Let's come into Savasana. Coming into where our bellies are up and our backs are on the ground. Welcome that breath and sensation to your head, down to your toes. Maybe even sensing a little bit more tingling into your tips of your fingers, into the tips of your toes. Allow breath moving. Notice where it's moving. Maybe being curious as to how you're breathing with your ribs now. Use breath and sensation in the right side of your ribs, opening up the spaces of those costals, those ribs. Breathing into the left side of your ribs, opening up breath and sensation. Breathing in both sides, right, left. Full rib expression of breath opening and closing. Being present with your breath. Such a beautiful thing. What we can learn from our fur babies when we learn to simply be. Deepening your breath. Wiggling your paws. Rounding your paws. Maybe full body reaching, stretching, exposing your bellies. And gently roll off to your side. The power of the pause to simply be in the moment, joy and happy. Find your seat. Find where you can feel balanced and still. Hands pressed to the heart. Inhale, open up the mouth. Exhale, let it go. Open up the mouth. Exhale, let it go. Holding at the top. Exhale, hug. Letting that go. Find joy in the day. What a gift it is to have the day unfold in front of us as we experience new things, meet new people and have time and spend with our fur babies. The gift of moving with joy for life. Take it all in. So if you want to crawl, you can crawl. If you want to wag, you can wag. If you want to dig a hole and plant seeds so roots can deepen to cherish your life. Thank you for being kind to all beings. Thank you for being kindest to yourselves. Namaste. Keep happy, keep wagging all day long. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.